Thank you, Chair Williamson and members of the committee. My name is Luke Kanies. I'm the founder and former CEO of Puppet, which is one of Oregon's largest software companies. We have more than 500 employees scattered around the world, with more than 350 here in Oregon, mostly in Portland. We also have offices all around the world, connected, not surprisingly, by the internet, including in Belfast, London, Singapore, Sydney, and Tokyo, I believe, and also Seattle. We raised more than $87 million in capital in the course of doing that. I'm here to say that I think net neutrality is critical to how the internet works today, how it has worked historically, and I think it's critical to do what we would like from the internet in the future. It's essentially a choice. I think either side can talk about freedom, and so it's a question of whose freedom you care about more. It's a choice between the freedom of the citizens to consume services they've already paid for, or the freedom of service providers to charge double, triple, quadruple for something that they're already being paid for. We've been here before. In the decades when AT&T was a monopoly, they had the right to control what you could connect to your phone line. You paid for a phone line, but then you paid extra for 2 phones on your phone line or 3 phones on your phone line. In the decades after, when broadband was first starting to show up, the carriers like Comcast and CenturyLink, the same carriers who are here today saying we need the ability to charge more, we need the ability to charge more, they wanted to charge you for every device you connected to your internet. I testified in front of the Tennessee legislature where I was living at the time in opposition to a bill like this. And that was a perfect example where at the federal level they lost that right. The federal government said you can't do this at a federal level, so they went to each state and pushed each state to allow them those additional restrictions. I don't know how that compares to net neutrality. If there's a federal support of net neutrality, I don't know what else can be done at the state level, but I'm confident that they can try to do something. I know I, in my house, have at least 19 separate devices connected to my house. I don't know, I can't imagine what the world would look like if I had to pay an extra $5 a month for every device that I wanted to connect to my internet. But I do know I wouldn't have 19 devices connected, and the world we live in would look very different if 20 years ago the carriers had gotten that ability to charge whatever they wanted for the services that I was using. In my opinion, this hurts everyone. The lack of net neutrality hurts everyone except big companies. And specifically, it concentrates wealth into the hands of the already arrived, into the hands of the incumbents. And importantly, it concentrates wealth in the area where those incumbents are headquartered and where their shareholders are. It extracts money from local economies. It makes those local economies less dynamic, less competitive, and less entrepreneurial, and sends it back to the large areas where those companies are headquartered. It also functions as a gatekeeper to new companies, to companies like my own. And you mentioned Netflix. Netflix is a perfect example. When they were very small, when they were scrappy, when they were striving to grow, they cared deeply about net neutrality. But once they got big enough, and Comcast began throttling their service. They fought. Eventually, they decided to pay Comcast a lot of money. So now Netflix doesn't care about net neutrality because they're one of the incumbents. But the company that comes up and wants to compete with Netflix, or wants to compete with Google, or wants to compete with any of these already existing large, rich companies, if they don't have the money to pay for Comcast and CenturyLink and Verizon and every other company, they're in real trouble. And this is probably not about charging individuals for each service. It's not likely about having Facebook show up as a line item on my phone bill. But it is likely about charging all those other companies' services for extra money in a way that I don't notice. All I notice is, wow, I've only got these big companies. I can't get access to smaller companies. Smaller companies aren't coming into existence. Again, we have a less dynamic, less entrepreneurial economy. And importantly for Oregon, concentrated in California, concentrated in New York, concentrated in Philadelphia, where Comcast, I believe, is headquartered. This is bad for everyone except big companies, right? The loss of net neutrality hurts all of us, and really hurts a citizen's ability to use a service they're already paying for, and an entrepreneur like myself, our ability to start new companies, start new organizations, new ideas, and fulfill new opportunities. That's essentially all I have to say. I think net neutrality is important to protect and enable a local, inclusive, and dynamic economy, and I think it's especially important for Oregon's future.